Welcome, everyone, and good evening to our second now Cancel Student Debt workshop of what we know now. I'm Natalia Abrams with Student Debt Crisis Center, and we have a packed house tonight, so we're going to give it just a couple of minutes or a minute for folks to join on, and then we will get started. We know you have a lot of questions. You can ask your questions in the chat box. We will be getting to the questions verbally at the end of the short presentation with an extended Q&A. And then we also have moderators joining us from our team to help with the chat while you ask your questions. So hopefully we can answer them in the presentation, and then we'll take some time to go over them. So with that, let's get started, and we can go to the first slide. Great. So today we are going to go over the recent plan for Biden to discuss student debt cancellation. We will share how to stay updated on the application process, and we will make time for Q&A at the end. And like I said, we are going to answer your questions. And we just always say this: we're not financial counselors or attorneys. We are advocates and borrowers that are here to help distill, the complicated information coming out of the White House. Great. So you're probably here because you heard that there was a big announcement. I keep hearing or repeating Senator Warren's line that a big chunk of the iceberg is broken off. We know that for so many borrowers, this is not all of it. This is not going to cancel your debt, but this is a really great first step. So individual borrowers will receive $10,000 in federal student loan cancellation if they make under $125,000 a year. But individual borrowers, so this is per person or per borrower in your family, can receive an additional $10,000 if you took out a Pell grant. Those were typically for low-income borrowers when you started borrowing as a student. Again, these are over $125,000 a year. And this is up to $20,000 total off of your student loan. And for married borrowers, that income limit, which is adjusted gross income, is under $250,000 a year. Moving forward. So what does this mean for student loan borrowers? We know that 43 out of the 45 will benefit in one way or another from this new program. Many borrowers make under $125,000 or $250,000 per family per year. 27 million borrowers are going to get the $20,000. So that's, more than half. A lot of you will qualify for that Pell grant. And 20 million borrowers will see their debt completely wiped out. But we have to tell them about this program. Spoiler alert, there is an application, even though we fought so hard against it. And so we have to make sure that people sign up for debt cancellation before it expires in December of next year. And there is not a form yet. We know that folks are eagerly awaiting that, and we will get to that in a moment. Moving forward, thank you. So this is just a great snapshot that came out this week from the White House of just how many borrowers are eligible for relief and how many have Pell grants in each state. So if you just look at your state, and we'll leave this on for a second, you can see that millions and millions, 43 million, but can be impacted. And this is, as an organizer, I just look at this as all the work we have to do state by state to find these people. Great, thank you. So which loans qualify for cancellation? We know that direct loans disbursed on or before June 30th. So of this year, as long as you took out your loan before June 30th of this year, and that does mean those in college, I think 6 million college students will receive this cancellation. And this is for all federal loans. There are some loans that are held by the other loans held by the government that are called commercially held FFEL loans. Many of you who had to make mandatory payments during the pandemic because your payments were not on pause, those loans you will have to consolidate. Those are the only loans, along with the Perkins loans, that you need to consolidate. All the other federal loans count, including Parent Plus, including Grad Plus. This is a really big program, as you can see, being broad-based and canceling out for all the loans. The loans that were eligible for pandemic-related for the pause qualify. It's a great way to remember that. The ones that didn't, if you had mandatory payments again, you'll need to consolidate. All right, Cody, and I will pass it to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I already see some great questions here. We're cherry picking some good ones to present to everyone in the audience, and then also answering what we can here. So keep them coming. Hopefully, in explaining what's about to come in the next few weeks, we can answer a lot of these questions as well. So I've already seen a couple of folks say, where's the application? What am I supposed to do? The reality is there is no application yet. So everyone who's on today's call, you're ahead of the game by getting this information right now. The Department of Education will be releasing an application in early to mid-October. That is the deadline that they have set for themselves. And they have informed us that it will take 4 to 6 weeks to process your loans for forgiveness, for debt cancellation. What that means is that the department is telling us if you apply before November 15th, you will be able to receive relief before the pandemic-related pause on student loan payments ends on December 31st. Now, that does not mean that if you do not apply by November 15th, that you're out of luck. This application for student debt cancellation, from what we know right now, will be open and available for all of next year as well. And a special note at the end here for current students. We've already been talking about this income requirement for applying for debt cancellation. If you are a student who's a dependent, your parents' income will be used for the application. Also, if you're a student who recently filled out a FAFSA form, you may receive debt cancellation automatically because the federal government has a lot of your information already on hand. So that should make the process easier for current students. And I just want to put one more note here about current students. When we're talking about debt cancellation for these students, remember, this only applies for loans that were issued before June 30th of this year. So there's a ton of students who already have student loans and are still in school. This qualifies for you. If you don't have a student loan yet, this program's not really going to apply to you at this moment. But there's millions of current students with debt, and this will help them right now. Next slide, please. Now, the Department of Education has summed up the process in quick steps. Step 1 is checking your eligibility. And as a reminder, you are eligible if your annual income was below $125,000 or $250,000 if you are married and filing jointly in the year 2021 or 2020. Step 2 is preparing. We want folks to log in or create an account at studentaid.gov. That's the Department of Education's website. When you get there, make sure your information is up to date. The best way to find out about debt cancellation information and updates is to be sure that the Department of Education and your student loan servicing company can contact you at the places where you actually are connecting. And lastly, submit your application when it's available, of course. Again, the application's available online in early October. A paper form and possibly a Spanish-speaking form and other versions will be available, hopefully shortly thereafter, but the initial form in October will be online only, and you'll have until December 31st of next year to submit that application. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Orlando Cavallo, who's one of our fellows at the Student Debt Crisis Center. He's going to talk about what you can do right now, what you should be doing right now, and ways to get involved to help others. Take it from here.
All right, thank you for that, Cody. So with September to-dos, you may be asking yourself, what can you do right now as the application is going to be coming out in early October? So the first thing that you can do, you can go straight to www.ed.gov/subscriptions to get email updates about cancellation and stay up to date with this particular news. Just be sure to check the box that says new federal student loan borrower updates. Additionally, it's key to underline and emphasize that consolidation will not affect cancellation. Right now is the best time to consolidate. This is because the origination date of the loan will be used to determine eligibility, not the new loan. Additionally, going into cancellation as other programs, as we're talking about the 10 to 20K in cancellation, you may be wondering, are there other programs that can get me closer to complete cancellation or bring down my monthly payments to a lower amount? And, there's a few key programs that you might be interested in. First of all, you may be interested in, especially if you worked in public service, things like a 501c3 nonprofits that work for public service or any level of government. You may want to look into the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, specifically the PSLF temporary waiver, which is set to expire in October 31st of this year. So borrowers can still apply for PSLF, but with this specific program, you'll be able to get closer to debt cancellation because the debt cancellation through the PSLF temporary waiver fixes a lot of the issues that the program has faced in the past. So if you're interested, please be sure to visit pslf.gov for more information. Additionally, Sdcc often hosts PSLF workshops, so just be ready to check out your email when we have our next one. Next, you may be interested in looking into income-driven repayment programs. So with this particular aspect of other programs, basically the federal repayment plans are still available for those who have payments after cancellation. So there have been improvements to these repayment programs as well, and they're still in progress with fixing different kinks in the system. But lastly, it is very key to underline and emphasize that the president has extended the COVID pandemic-related payment pause through the end of December 31st. So the payment pause is set to expire at the end of the year, December 31st. So if you're looking to get cancellation, the $10,000 to $20,000 before payments are set to restart, please be sure to apply for the debt cancellation before November 15th to receive relief before the payments are set to restart. And if you're interested in helping your friends, family, and community stay up to date with all this debt cancellation news and really helping one another get the cancellation, this is a program that Sdcc has kickstarted, the Sdcc Ambassador Program, and this is something that we're particularly very excited about. So it's a great way to spread the word about student debt cancellation, helping others in your community, and you can ultimately be the reason why someone's life is about to change with this debt cancellation, with different programs, and really keeping folks up to date. So if you're interested, I will drop the link in the chat. It's a great opportunity to share resources with your friends, loved ones, and others. Some key resources like we're sharing with you today, sharing important information on debt cancellation, as well as receiving different email alerts to keep yourself engaged and up to date with the nearest debt cancellation news, as well as engaging in our monthly calls for the Sdcc Ambassador Program. So once again, if you're interested in becoming an Sdcc Ambassador, we'll drop the link in the chat, and please feel free to sign up. Lastly, these are some resources that you may be interested in checking out. both to keep up to date with student loan debt in the news as well as cancellation information specifically. So please feel free to check these out. These include public service loan forgiveness, cancellation application alerts, as well as news and information from studentaid.gov about cancellation information and student loan information generally with studentaid.gov. And I wanted to hand it back to Cody and Natalia so that we can take some questions.
Thanks, Orlando. One of my favorite parts about talking about this debt cancellation action is we just did it in 15 minutes. In some ways, this policy is relatively simple, and we just need to get this information into the hands of people who need it to be able to apply. So hopefully we can answer in the next 45 minutes a ton of questions and send you off on your way to get your debt canceled. I'm pulling some questions here, and I'm just going to go in order based on what I saw in the chat. One question was, can you apply for student debt cancellation under the president's action if you're in deferment or forbearance on your loans?
Yeah. And I'm looking at you, Cody, as a verification on that. But yes, we're being told that all loan types qualify. And I did also want to say before we do kind of the rapid fire questions to folks that this is a cancellation workshop. So we'll, try to answer a few things on other questions like public service loan forgiveness and other programs, but the goal is to stick to the cancellation questions.
Yeah, so borrowers in deferment, forbearance, fair game. Also, borrowers in default can qualify for this debt cancellation. That's probably throwing some folks off because when we do other workshops talking about other topics, typically something like default or other types of repayment programs can throw a wrench into things. For this cancellation plan, that's not a problem. I saw another question come up that I think has come up a lot recently, and I think it's worth noting. Borrowers are asking, well, what if I have on my account a subsidized loan or a unsubsidized loan? Does that detail really matter here when it comes to student debt cancellation?
On the back end, I think if you go to studentaid.gov/debt relief, and I'm sure we'll share it in the chat, it shows how it will be applied to loans, but it doesn't matter if your loans are subsidized or unsubsidized in terms of getting the relief. And just to skip Cody, so a question I've been seeing a ton about the timeline. The department is telling us that after you fill out the form, once it's ready, it will be 4 to 6 weeks. And I know that's a lot of kind of ifs and wins and maybes, and that's why we've started our ambassador program, and that's why we're doing these workshops so you can do everything possible to prepare before we get the form and then walk you through that as well.
There's another question here that I'm going to take as this one drives me crazy. It's such a small detail that really throws borrowers off, and I'm so mad that it's a problem for us. This was Angelica, and they were asking if I have student loans that are federal student loans, but they're from the 90s and they're bank owned, do I qualify for student debt cancellation? Because I was told I do not. And that just like boils my blood. It drives me so crazy because there are federal student loans, and they're older federal student loans. They're called Federal Family Education Loans, or FFEL loans, that came from an older program where a bank would give the money to a student, but the federal government backed it. And so they're technically federal student loans. But this small detail about where the money came from has created so many roadblocks for borrowers over the years. When it comes to debt cancellation under the president's proposal, you can qualify. You may not qualify immediately because of the type of loan that you have, but you can consolidate your loan to become eligible and immediately be able to get that relief. So if you believe you have a federal loan and it's one of these FFEL loans, you just have to take one action, which is to consolidate your loan to be able to qualify for this program. So that's a really important detail because we don't want these borrowers to miss out. Another one we get all the time, I saw this was from Casey, and Casey wanted to know if Parent Plus loans qualify for student debt cancellation.
Yes, absolutely. This is, often I think Parent Plus borrowers know that they've been excluded from a lot of the more generous programs. Parents are included. I see one of the Sabrinas that are on our call from our team, and she's receiving debt cancellation in addition to her parents. So this is something that for many families that have multiple student loan borrowers, you might see upwards of 50, 60 or more per family being canceled out.
I'm gonna second something Natalia said earlier. We are gonna focus on debt cancellation. I saw a few questions related to public service loan forgiveness. I'm gonna drop in the chat here our webinar from last week about public service loan forgiveness. So, don't leave this one. Let's finish this conversation afterwards. Go to the next one. You can watch a video and you can connect with us in the future. All right, I see still a lot of questions coming in. We have one from Harold, and Harold wants to know, how do we know if we're going to receive automatic cancellation, and when would that happen?
So I don't think we've gotten an update on when it is going to happen. We are pushing them to do it as soon as possible. We are hearing 8 million loans. Those that they have recently enrolled in an IDR program that they'll have data information for, and those who are currently in school. And they average or think that's about 8 million people. We are still encouraging people that when in doubt, you must apply. And you need to apply to just to ensure to dot your I's, to cross, your T's, because if you've been working with the Department of Education, it's just when in doubt, apply.
Yeah, I think this is all a part of kind of the stream of information we anticipate we'll be receiving. October, we will have an application, and hopefully we'll have more information about the rest of the rollout here. So stay tuned on that. But Natalia is right. If you're not a current student or a recent IDR applicant, the vast majority of borrowers will need to apply. So be prepared to fill out this application. All right, let's see. A lot of folks were wondering about the income requirement, and they wanted to know, when we say a couple that earns under $250,000, does that include people who may be married but file separately? And I responded to a few of those. I've been sharing the studenta.gov link, where there's a whole FAQ page about how this is going to how it's going to work. If you're a couple and you file your taxes separately, you may be able to use your individual income, but take a look at the department's guidelines and you'll be able to find an answer to your specific situation, because the tax and income requirement they're quite open-ended, and we know that people have kind of unique situations where they maybe want to maybe they're in a unique situation that isn't covered by just the broad guidelines. So take a look at this link. The FAQ page is incredibly helpful. A lot of people, including I saw one from Laura, wanted to know, what do we mean by a borrower that has a Pell grant? Like, what if you had a Pell grant to pay for an undergraduate program, but then you have a lot of student debt for graduate school? Would you still qualify for that expanded relief?
Yeah, so a Pell Grant is a grant. This wasn't a loan given out to you. It was supposed to cover the cost of college, but as we know, it did not. And even if you took $1,000 of your Pell Grant one semester at a community college and now have gone on to graduate school and PhD, you'll still have an additional 10 taken off. So it doesn't matter how much Pell you took out. It just matters if you took out if you were given a Pell Grant.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but go to studentaid.gov, because you can log in and you'll be able to see if you received a Pell Grant. You'll be able to see your financial aid award letter. We had someone in our office go and find out, like, I got thousands of dollars in Pell Grants and I didn't even remember because this was 10 years ago. So you may be eligible for additional relief and not even recognize it because, the financial aid system is confusing and it's been many years. So go to studentaid.gov and find your financial award letter to see if you received a Pell Grant.
And Cody, I'm seeing a lot of people, or a few people say, they have loans before 1994 and they're not seeing that. And we have been told that the data does not go back that far. However, they're saying they will automatically cancel that out or connect with you. So stay tuned. I feel like we're a broken record on that, and apologies. We're continuing to give you the information as soon as we get it, and it's not fully baked yet.
Totally. I saw Natalie said she's got to run soon and has a simple question that I think will be beneficial to everyone. And they're asking, will borrowers automatically get the application, or is there something they need to do to be able to access the application when it's launched?
Yeah, and if you could share that link again, the best thing to do right now is to go to the Ed subscription page and enter in your information, and they will notify you. It's like a coming soon page that we see sometimes for sales or something like that. That's the best thing to do right now, Natalie, and for anyone that's looking into or wants to be notified of the form ASAP. And the timeline is early October. I keep seeing that. And the year for Pell Grants was before 1994.
And I just dropped that in the chat for folks who can sign up for the subscription. I'm signed up. I want to know the second this comes out so I can apply just like the rest of you.
No, and I keep seeing the chat. Student Aid does know the Pell Grant before 94. It's just that they won't be showing up at studentaid.gov.
Another question that's come up several times, and this is again another situation where I do stress the Department of Education's resources. Ivana and others wanted to know, if I have many different loans, how is the Department of Education going to decide which loans they're going to cancel? And Ivana, I wish there was like a very simple answer. There is not. There's like a hierarchy of different scenarios that the Department of Education is going to run through. So again, if you go to the link here, it's debt-relief-announcement. You'll be able to find the processes that the Department of Education is going to follow to apply debt cancellation. And so they'll look at certain types of loans and they'll work their way down through the process to provide relief. Natalia, I know this isn't specifically on this announcement, but in some ways it is. And I saw a few people that wanted to know, is this the end for debt cancellation? Are folks continuing to fight for more? What's next, I guess, in all of these updates? Or do we know what's even next?
Well, it's not the end for us. We are continuing to fight for more. We keep saying every single time, but we want to make sure to balance fighting for more and also making sure that people get debt cancellation. I think one of the best ways to fight for more is to get this and show how much it benefits, like especially for those 20 million people that will have it completely wiped out, the benefits and to the economy, to our society by doing that. And then we can continue to fight for more. And I agree that we need to continue fighting for an extension. And that's something that we are also discussing, and I think we'll ramp up very soon.
Yeah, I saw Sarah ask that about the payment pause extension. I know we're still hearing from borrowers who are not only in some ways recovering from the pandemic, still they're facing inflation and all the other issues that are impacting our finances. So the crisis for borrowers is not over, and so we shouldn't restart payments with so many obstacles and problems facing our student loan system and the borrowers within it. Okay, another question that has come up, including folks like Victoria and others, they want to know which student loan servicing companies qualify for this debt cancellation. The big thing there, Victoria and others, your loan servicer may not be enough to give us an answer here. There are a handful of federal student loan servicing companies, and mine is Great Lakes. There are companies like Nelnet. In the past, we had Navient, the big name in the industry. And what has happened over this last year, a quarter of borrowers have had their student loan servicing company change. So now we have companies like Advantage in the mix. I saw people mention Mohila as another company. Your student loan servicer may be enough to tell us if they have a federal student loan portfolio, but that's not enough to tell us if you have the right type of federal student loan. So I wouldn't get hung up on the servicer name. What you want to do is go to studentaid.gov and you want to find out, do I have a direct loan? And if you do, you're there. If you don't have a direct loan, then you need to figure out if you have a loan that is already held by the Department of Education, or if you're going to need to consolidate. And the simple way that we've been telling folks, if you received the pause on payments during the pandemic, since March of 2020, then you almost certainly have the right type of loan. And if you have a federal loan and your payments weren't put on pause automatically, then you probably need to consolidate. Okay, I see a kind of a related question. Folks are asking if private student loans qualify.
So let's just clarify, private student loans from a bank recently do not qualify. But if you have what some people refer to as those bank-owned loans or a commercially held Pell, family federal education loan, federal family education loan. Many borrowers have called saying they have private loans because the company has made them think they have private loans only to find out they are federal loans. So again, we'll keep saying it, studentaid.gov should be your best friend. And going to studentaid.gov, if your loan is there, then you have a federal loan, and it's the best way to check that out.
Let's see here. I'm seeing some folks again who are asking about what current students can do to cancel their debt. And so I want to just be clear. I want to go back to that and be sure that we're being absolutely clear. If you are a current student and you already have a student loan, that you had a student loan that was issued to you before June 30th of this year, you can have debt canceled off of that loan. If you're a current student and you get a loan now, or you got one since June 30th of this year, that loan would not be eligible for debt cancellation. And so it's a really important distinction, because there's many students who are mid-journey in their education journey and they'll be eligible, but those who are starting this year, or at least getting their first student loan this year, they're not going to be eligible for this relief. Another question that's come up, folks want to know if they can apply for this debt cancellation plan while also exploring all the other programs available, including public service loan forgiveness and income-driven repayment plans. So the simple answer is yes. They all have different qualifying factors. So those are things that you'll want to look into. For example, you may want to consolidate your loans to qualify for public service loan forgiveness under the new waiver rules, which have expanded the program. So I would encourage folks to look at how what each program's requirements are. At the same time, though, you don't have to be concerned that one program will preclude you from applying to the other. This debt cancellation plan by the president is on top of all of the programs that already exist for federal student loan borrowers.
Yeah, and I would say if there's one teeny silver lining about the application, which there really isn't, it's just that for folks like us, being able to talk to student loan borrowers or our ambassadors, we can learn or let people know about the other programs that are out there, because as Cody said, debt cancellation is on top of other programs.
I see another question just about the qualifying loans. Someone asked, I have a direct consolidation loan. Does that qualify or do I need to take any action? That's a great
Yeah.
question. Go ahead, Natalia.
Oh no, the direct that means that you did consolidate into the direct loan program. You were in the correct place. You don't need to have a direct loan, but you know, when in doubt, that is the safe place to be. So you're absolutely fine. And you're not able to consolidate again. You can only consolidate once through the direct loan program.
This has come up from time to time. There's a lot of folks too that want to know, if I just finished paying off my student loans, can I apply for retroactive relief?
So if you've recently paid them off, like before the pandemic, no. There is a refund where if you've been making payments during the pandemic and you are going to get canceled out. Cody, maybe you can explain this more, because I think they've made some changes to the refund process, correct? It's now automatic.
For people who made manual payments?
Yeah. People that made non-mandatory payments during the pandemic on their pause loans.
I mean, it's my understanding that you'll need to request refunds, but we can share the recent guidance from the Department of Ed as well. All right, I see more questions here. I see a lot of folks really confused about Navient. I feel like we need to cover the Navient student loan servicing issue. So a lot of folks historically have had Navient as their student loan servicer. It was the biggest name as far as federal student loan servicing. And then last year, they announced they were going to be leaving the industry, which created a huge hole. So we're hearing from a ton of borrowers that say, I have a student loan with Navient. Do I qualify for student debt cancellation under this plan? Natalia, I don't know if you have thoughts on how we can kind of clarify the current situation for these borrowers.
Well, unfortunately, there's a small amount of private loan borrowers that did get sizable relief, but for most borrowers, sorry, Cody, you're talking about with the lawsuit?
No, I'm just talking about with Navient leaving the industry, there's still a lot of folks that still think they have Navient loans, or perhaps they do. What is the confusion there?
Well, there's Navient private loans, and then there are Navient federal loans, which it's no longer, that have been moved over to Aid Advantage. And so I'm seeing some felt loans on Navient. If you've been making payments during the pandemic, then that means you have one of those commercially held FEL loans, and you'll want to consolidate your loan. Yeah. You know, Cody, I think I'm seeing a few questions about the lawsuit, and they're just to clarify lawsuits. So one, there's a Navient lawsuit that there was a settlement that some private loans received relief. Federal loans received an embarrassingly low sum of, a few dollars essentially for a class action suit. So that there wasn't a lot of benefit for federal loan borrowers with the Navient lawsuit. Then to just stay on the topic of lawsuits, there is chatter about a lawsuit that could harm the debt cancellation decision. Right now, there is no lawsuit. There has been discussion of filing, but there is no lawsuit yet. People are very much on top of it. And, I can say that for years, the research has been done to prove that the president does, in fact, have the authority to cancel student debt.
Yeah, I mean, we have been working on this issue for many years, and the movement over the pandemic to really get this across the finish line was driven by a lot of advocates and also a lot of legal experts, including Harvard Law and elsewhere. And so the legal authority for the president to take this kind of action is well documented and well supported. I see this question about the application again. Do we know what's going to be on that application as far as specific details?
They're saying it's supposed to be a very simple income verification or attestation, because the government always has to make it complicated with these forms, but form where you will just attest to your income using either 20 or 21, not both, not like an average or aggregate of the two. So the form has been seen by some people in the Department of Education. We have not seen it. Our partners have not seen it. They keep telling us that it's going to be very simple.
Yeah, I mean, that is our goal. And for those that have been following our work, at the beginning of all this, we were calling for an automatic process where borrowers didn't have to submit any information, and there was no income requirement. And so we have gone to a place where there is an application, there is an income requirement, but the pressure is still on to make sure that this application process is as easy as possible. That is the goal, because we know that even small details and small obstacles can completely derail people's ability to qualify for these types of programs. So we'll keep on it. We're anticipating it should be simple. That is the ideal scenario, but it's hard to say. And hopefully we'll get some guidance on some of this as well. Okay, let's see here. I want to address a question from Mary, and I see others were asking this. A lot of folks are going to their student loan servicing company's account. And when they get there, the terminology they see that's associated with their student loan may not align with how we're talking about these student loans. Often there's internal codes, or there's other like jargon that's used on your paperwork or your bill that shows up. So if a borrower just really isn't sure, can we just reiterate one more time, where can a borrower go to know and find out if they have a federal student loan?
Studentaid.gov. That is a place that you want to go to find out if you have a federal loan.
Exactly. Go there. That is the federal database that holds all federal student loans. Your information will be there. Studentaid.gov really is the place to get accurate information about your current student loan situation. And I guess, Natalia, while we're at it, if you go there and you don't see any information, what does that mean?
That means that 99% of the time that you have a private student loan. And then you're going to want to look at a credit report, contact who you pay. I know that sounds simple, but it's not when we have companies like Navient that are both private and federal. So studentaid.gov is your best friend. Just seeing things again in the chat. Again, this includes parent loans. This includes students. The cutoff date is June 30th of this year for loan origination date. So unfortunately, that does not include incoming freshmen, but it includes all other students.
Great. A lot of different scenarios here, obviously. And this is why we have to dedicate a good chunk of time to really address all the different scenarios that we face here.
And I would just say, if we miss your question, I see some people saying that we missed a question. If you saw what we saw, we're at one point like hundreds of questions coming in very fast. So we don't see every question. It's not that we're really ignoring questions.
Yeah, I mean, we had 10,000 people register for today's event. So the need for this information is incredibly high right now. We will obviously continue to host workshops, provide more information to borrowers, and try to fill in the gaps as much as we can. Keep in mind, this is the work that the Department of Education, and most importantly, our student loan servicing companies should be doing, and have frankly, dropped the ball for years. And we're teaming up with our own advocates and our own team members here to try to get this out. All right. Another question we've seen in every workshop so far: does it matter how old your student loan is if you have a federal student loan?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think we're seeing those problems with the Pell Grants that were in the early 90s and before, not showing up, but it doesn't matter how old your loan is. You will see at least $10,000 off if you make under that 125.
Exactly. I know there's a lot of folks that feel like, maybe my loans are decades old. It must not be eligible for something as new as this cancellation. That is not what matters here. Again, it's just meeting this income requirement and having the right type of loan. That's how this policy is going to reach 43 million Americans. All right, I've got a list of more questions here. They're coming in fast. Others are asking if my loans have been put on pause during the pandemic, does that mean I have the right type of loan to qualify?
Yep. It's a pretty good barometer for that. So if your loans were on pause, that means that you had, which was majority of student loan borrowers, it means that you had the type of loan that qualify.
Yep. And I've seen something come through here that I know it's definitely come up from time to time. A borrower wants to know, if I have $15,000 in student debt and I have a Pell Grant, does that mean I get $15,000 canceled and $5,000 returned to me? And the answer there is no. So if you follow the language, how this action is worded, it's up to $10,000 for borrowers and up to $20,000 for borrowers with Pell Grants. That up to piece tells us it means that you can have your debt canceled up until you have $0 in debt, and you can't go over $10,000 or $20,000. So that would be great. We'd love to get $20,000 to every person who has Pell Grants, no matter how much in student debt they owe. But they're just going to go up to every dollar of debt you have, up to $20,000 if you have a Pell Grant, or $10,000 if you don't. So let's just be clear there.
And I saw Cody, somebody just joined. This is not automatic for majority of borrowers. You will have to apply. Even for those 8 million borrowers that it's automatic, those are people in school or who recently did an income-driven repayment form. We're still urging everyone to apply. We hope that the application form, we're being told, will be here in early October. Borrowers will have will get relief after 4 to 6 weeks. And we're also being told that if you apply by November 15th of this year, you will see the relief before payments resume on January 1st of 2023.
I think we've covered it, but I just see a few questions pop in that makes me think we're not, there's some folks that are still not entirely clear. Let's straighten out who needs to consolidate their loan to be eligible for this debt cancellation.
Yeah, we get this a lot, and I understand that it just, you hear consolidation, and I think a lot from what we're hearing from a lot of borrowers, you just want to do whatever steps you can. The majority of people will not need to consolidate. If you have a direct loan or a federal family education loan that was on pause during the pandemic, you do not need to consolidate. There is a small group of people. So out of the 45 million people, there's about 9 million people that still made payments during the pandemic, mandatory payments, not just to try to pay down their balance. Those people will need to consolidate before they apply for debt cancellation. And also those people, when they're calling their lender and asking if their loan counts, they're being told it doesn't, when in fact they can consolidate into the next question. And just to, I'm seeing some stuff at Parent Plus and individual loans. You only get the 10 to 20,000 per person. So if you have Parent Plus loans and student loans, that they talk about it at studentaid.gov, but on how they'll apply it, but you won't get more than $20,000 per person.
Yep. And related to this, I see Paul just put in the chat, I have 6 loans. Do I need to consolidate them? Not necessarily. If those loans are eligible, you can apply for debt cancellation. And as I mentioned earlier, the Department of Education has their own like hierarchy of scenarios that they will process through your different loans and apply debt cancellation according to those requirements. All right, let's see here. I've got a question here from Casey, and I feel like this is relevant to a lot of folks. This debt cancellation is the cancellation that the president announced. But what about erasing your student debt after you complete an income-driven repayment plan? I know we didn't talk about these programs, but where do other forms of student debt forgiveness and cancellation, where do those stand? So I'll take that one because this is really important. We talk about it on all of our workshops. A borrower can still apply for all of these existing programs. That also means that borrowers who were on track to complete an income-driven repayment plan can still do that, and they can still have their debt erased afterwards. And for those who aren't familiar, these are affordable federal repayment programs. You can enroll in them every year, and up to 20 or 25 years, depending on which program you're in. And that at the end of it, you're supposed to be able to have your student loans forgiven. Some of you may be familiar, this hasn't worked as entirely intended, but that is how it's intended to work. So those still stand. Nothing has changed about these programs. This debt cancellation plan by the president is on top of everything that already existed. Okay, see, a lot of people have been asking, does the debt cancellation apply to interest or principal or both? How is that going to work?
I know the breakdowns at studentaid.gov, Cody, but do you know the order on that?
Well, no. So there, I will share again the link to the hierarchy of how the department's going to apply it. I think the short answer there is this debt cancellation doesn't necessarily target interest or principal. This is, either or could qualify. We've talked over the years about potential opportunities to erase interest. That's not what this is about. This is about cutting back people's student debt total. And I will, again, share the link where you can find how this program will be applied. And that's going to be in the chat here for everyone who is looking.
The income threshold is adjusted gross income, AGI.
Another person said, how will I know if I've actually gotten debt cancellation? And I also saw that that's on the FAQ page here. And according to the Department of Education, our student loan servicing companies will communicate benefits that we've received through this program. So that's how we're going to continue to track the relief that folks are receiving.
Yeah, go ahead, Cody.
Go ahead, Natalia.
I was just going to say, I think we have time for a few more questions because we're coming to the end of the workshop. So I know you've been dutifully going through this very robust chat. So just anything that you feel we haven't gotten to.
Yeah, well, selflessly, I do want to touch on something. I saw a borrower in the chat said that they were an Sdcc ambassador helping to get this word out. So I just want to remind folks one more time, we are asking for folks like you who are getting this information to help yourself to also help get the information out to others. And when I say help, we've made it super easy. We're sharing email templates, social media templates. We are providing graphics to go online. We're setting up meetings for volunteers to meet. So if you're interested in helping your friends or family or your church group or your community group or your sports team, whatever it may be. Help spread this word. I'm going to put in the chat here our SDCC ambassadors link, and you can just sign up. It's very simple. You'll sign up. We'll send you some digital tools, and you'll be asked to join an event in the future if you want to meet others who are helping organize and help others. This has come up for days now, and I want to just reiterate it because I do see that that Lysandra and others are asking about this. Will student debt cancellation through the president's plan be taxed? And what do we know about this issue that's really come up in the news a lot lately?
So this is unfortunately a state by state thing. We know it's another thing that's not fully set in stone yet. For example, they were saying, I live in California, that California borrowers were going to be taxed. Then our legislature came out saying, no, either way, like no matter what, we won't be taxed. So you're going to have to check with your state. And I also know that this isn't fully decided by each state, and they have until next April to make that decision.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction. We're still waiting to find out on these states. We're doing advocacy to try to address this. But what we do know is that members of Congress at the federal level passed a bill to make sure that any debt cancellation would not be federally taxed until 2025. So that was a big win. We know that that's safe, and now we'll do some of the work, and we're calling on our supporters to push their local and state representatives to try to fix this problem if they're in one of these states that could possibly tax debt relief. Okay, just a few more questions here because I know
you won't be federally taxed either. I just want to make that clear, for the people about taxes. There are no federal taxes. This is just a state tax issue if your state's going to tax or not.
Yep, that's exactly what that bill did. Up until that, there will be no federal tax until at least 2025.
A few people are saying the ambassador link doesn't work. We'll check into that on our end. There will also be an email follow-up after this workshop with all of the links that we're talking about, replay of this event, so not to worry if something's been missed.
Yeah, 24 hours from today, you'll get an email. It'll include a link to the video of this chat. Will include some other resources, so keep an eye out from that. That is, I think, a really great way to answer your questions after you've had a moment to kind of distill everything we've discussed today. All right, with that, I'm going to take one more question because we're about to bump up against time here. Let's see here. I just want to get one that really, I think, applies to as many folks as possible. I'm going to go back to the Parent Plus situation because I see a lot of questions here. Somebody wants to know if my parents have a Parent Plus loan and I've been paying it on their behalf, can I get their student debt canceled?
So you won't get that relief, but if you can get your parents to fill out the application for their loans, then they should get $10,000 off of their loan.
Yeah,
it's really going to be about filling out this application, and we have 15 months from October when we get it to find 43 million people and make sure that they fill out the form so they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, the big important detail is that the loan holder themselves, can qualify for debt cancellation.
And again, the application is not out yet. All you can do, and I think this is a good link to leave it on, Cody, for the group, is the Ed subscription page. You can go to the Department of Ed website at studentaid.gov. We're going to share a direct link and check the box for new student loan updates. And the Department of Education will notify you as soon as the form goes live. We are hearing early October. That's in just a few weeks from now or a week and a half from now. And we promise, for those folks that have been joining us all the time, to notify you as soon as we know. And we'll be having another workshop and continuing to do these to walk through the form with you and go over your questions then. But we really appreciate you all being on tonight. We have, a couple thousand people at 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. Eastern taking time in your evening to learn about this. Really just appreciate you all being here. And just big shout outs to my team, Sabrina Sarasaris, Orlando Caballo, and Cody Hunanian for doing this. I'm not going to embarrass Cody, but Cody, we're really happy for your wedding coming up this Sunday. So thank you for doing that. And we're just so happy.
Yeah, I like many of the ambassadors will be telling people there to sign up for debt cancellation as well. So I'll take work on the road.
You won't even take your wedding off, knowing you.
Well, thank you all.
Right.
And yeah, really appreciate folks making time in an afternoon to do this. It really means a lot. So let's get folks debt canceled.
All right. Thank you all and have a great evening. Goodbye.
Bye.